everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Cindy, the owner of the Tinted Stitchery. For those of you who are new here, hello, how are you? I hope you like what you see and you consider sticking around. And for everybody else, welcome back. So today we've got a really good video ahead for you. Have you ever wondered how you should be pricing your handmade items? Are you pricing it correctly? Are you leaving money on the table? How do you account for all your overhead, your new machines that you've purchased and that you're paying for? All your miscellaneous supplies? Is it all just so overwhelming? Stay tuned, I'll help you with that. Alright guys, so it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to make sure you're doing this right. And for those of you who are new, or maybe just need a refresher, or just have been lost the entire time, this is a great video for you. So grab a drink, pen and paper, and let's get started. Okay, so first thing I want to share with you guys is what is the formula to obtain your pricing? What formula do you need to follow? The formula is actually going to be your raw materials, plus your overhead, plus your labor, plus your percent markup. That's a lot, right? It's a lot to take in. So first thing you need to do when you're pricing your items is you need to sit down and go over all your raw materials. What does it take for you to make whatever it is that you're making? For the sake of this example, I am pretending that I am making a 12-month tutu outfit, complete with a tutu, 2 layers of ribbon, the shirt, and a hair bow. So I'm gonna kind of go step by step with you guys to kind of show you how you can lay it out. So for me personally, I use a spreadsheet, and I do my purchasing once or twice a month in big bulk, which helps me to stay on top of what I'm spending, know how much I'm spending, and be able to account for what something's really costing me. If you're buying many times throughout the month, you're buying this from Amazon, you're buying this from BB Crafts, you're buying this from Gifts International, you're buying all over the place every other day throughout the month, realistically you're probably having a hard time keeping up with your all-in costs. You're probably not even logging it as soon as you spend it. You save the receipts and you get caught up later. You're always kind of behind the ball on it. You don't have a good grasp of what you're actually spending. So if you try to do it to where you're only spending once a week, you only do your purchasing once a week, once every other week on the same day, once a month, whatever it is, if you have a schedule and you immediately log everything you spend, you're gonna be way more on top of things. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day, how you organize your business and all that kind of stuff. So I am going to show you this example today and kind of walk through it with you guys. Here is your formula. Raw materials plus overhead plus labor plus percent markup. Okay, that's what we need to obtain. So let's break it down. Let's start with our raw materials. This is everything it's going to take for me to make my tutu outfit, okay? I have my tulle, my ribbon, my elastic, my shirt, the fabric for my applique, my thank you cards, because I make these myself, so I know exactly how much it costs me per card, my bow clip, my stickers, my thank you stickers, my homemade tags, my poly mailers, the shipping cost, and my Etsy listing fee, because that will always be there. So for me, I know how much I spent on tulle, and I know how many yards I'm gonna need for this tutu. So this brings me to $3.12 for this specific tutu. There's no way it can cost you the same to make a 12-month tutu and a 5T tutu. It's not, the math doesn't add up. It's gonna take way more tulle, way more ribbon. The cost is completely different. So if you're slapping the same cost on a tutu, no matter what size it is, you're automatically doing it wrong and you're leaving money on the table. So add up everything it takes you to actually make it, to actually make the item. Now, if that's gonna be a romper, then for you it would be like fabric, lining, interfacing, your snaps, whatever else you're gonna put on there, right? So every handmade item is gonna be different, but this is just for my example. Then you wanna add in your overhead. Now, how do we get your overhead cost? This is a big one that people ask all the time. What is overhead? So what are you spending every month for your business? This is gonna be different for everybody. So if you're doing your handmade business as your full-time job, it's your only source of income, you need to be including your mortgage or your rent, your light bill, your water bill, your gas, anything it takes you to live because you're working at home and that is your sole income. That is what you do for a living. For me, I have a full-time job. My husband has a full-time job. So and we do our little business at home. So I don't need to include any of that in my overhead because I'm living here anyway and our full-time job pays for all that. So our overhead is quite low when it comes to our small business. And that's the benefit of doing your small business out of your home if you're working full-time. So your overhead is going to include any of those items, right? So rent, water, electricity, any legal fees as well. So for us, this is actually going to be changing soon. We've actually gone to a lawyer to trademark our logo. We've reached out to lawyers to have consultations regarding copyright infringement and fair use, CPSIA to make sure we're compliant, all that kind of stuff. So now that we're an LLC, we've taken that really seriously and we really want to make sure all of our ducks in a row. So for us, the overhead is quite low right now because we just pay these fees. So come next month, that's probably going to change and then we'll kind of see how we're incorporating this lawyer into our everyday business. How much we use them, how much we don't use them, that may change. So we'll see how that's going to work for us. But depending on your business setup, that'll be different for you. Insurance, if you're insured, you want to include that in your overhead. Any ads. So if you're paying for Etsy ads, if you're paying for Instagram or Facebook ads, those ads need to be in your overhead. You need to account for the fact that you're paying for those. So in Etsy, it's quite easy enough. It tells you everything. You can run reports on how much you typically spend. You know how much you've set your Etsy to spend in ads, so that number won't be hard for you to come up with. I actually have my brother's 6-needle embroidery machine included in my overhead costs because I pay a certain monthly payment towards that. My Racoma is not in there, and none of my other machines are in there. All of my other machines are paid off. So, but the brother is in there. So I'm making sure I'm accounting for that in there. Utilities, my cell phone bill's in there actually. My cell phone bill is used 50% for my full-time job, 50% for my business. So I account for half of it in my overhead for this business. Just stuff like that. You want to make sure there's nothing you're missing. If you know that once a month you go make a large, not large, but you go make an order to Uline and you order boxes and you order tape and you get a tape gun, or on average you know you spend this much with Uline every month, or for business supplies, you need to include that. Nothing should be unaccounted for. Stickers, mailers, thank you cards, tape, ink. You know how often you buy ink. Go to your Amazon account, if you buy it from Amazon or wherever you buy your ink, and get on average how often you buy ink. Incorporate that into your overhead. It needs to be covered. It's not free. Your paper, you know you buy paper. How often do you buy paper? You print packing slips and invoices. That money comes from somewhere, right? It adds up. That needs to be in there. So all that stuff needs to be accounted for. Then you have your labor section, and that's going to be how much are you willing to make per hour. So if you look up the average pay for a seamstress in the United States, it actually says that it's between $20 and $35 an hour. So it's going to depend on where you're located, your experience, all that. You decide how much you're okay with getting paid. Now, if you're okay with getting paid $10 an hour, that's your prerogative. That's you. You do you. If you say, no, I'm not working for less than $35 an hour, right on. That's great. You do you. So that's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's not my full-time job. It's not something I have to rely on every day to pay my bills and to eat, or that would be closer to like 35 plus an hour. There's no way I'd be okay with $10 an hour. But it's different for everybody. If you have multiple streams of income, which you should always have, especially when you work for yourself, you should not be just relying on one source of income, one stream of income, excuse me. So your labor cost is going to vary extremely depending on what from person to person depending on what your expectations are. Then you have your markup. So for the fashion industry, the average markup percentage is between 55 and 62%. So you can play with those numbers when you do your math and your formula to see where you want to be. If it's something that's oversaturated, that's everywhere, like tutus, unfortunately, I would rather be closer to the 62% markup. But because everybody is doing tutus nowadays, you can get them every time you turn around. I don't think seriously that we can get away with doing a 62% markup. It's just gonna depend on what you're making, how saturated the market is, or if you're doing a tutu outfit like that nobody else has, it's very different, then yeah, bump that baby up. But that only lasts for a week or two before someone copies you, and supply demand, you all have to take your price down. That's just the way it works. So let's walk through this again. Oh, because my overhead is going to be low, this is gonna be your formula. You take your total monthly overhead, whatever that's gonna be, and this number is gonna be greatly different for everybody, depending on what you have to include. Mine's very low because, like I said, I work full-time and all my bills are paid by my full-time job. And I only have one machine that I'm paying for, so, and those other things I counted in here, right? So like my mailers are in here, my tags are in here, my stickers are in here. Otherwise, for you, if you buy those in bulk once a month or whatever, and you want to include that in your overhead because you know you normally buy those, you don't make your own tags, you buy those from an Etsy shop or another company, you buy them in bulk every month, you'll want to include those over here. But as long as it's accounted for, doesn't matter. Take your overhead and divide it by the average number of units you sell per month, right? So you go to your Etsy, look at how many items you typically sell a month. You can be conservative, whatever you want. Also take into account if you're selling on different platforms, not just Etsy. If you're selling on Facebook as well as Etsy, and you're selling other places, include your average number of units right here. So take your overhead, divide it by the units you typically sell, and that'll give you how much you need to add per item to cover your overhead. And this is what you're gonna add, this is what I'm adding to my tutu cost to account for my ink and all my other overhead items, my cell phone usage, my thread. If you buy thread, don't forget that. You go buy a certain amount of thread every month. That needs to be in your overhead. Even if you just go back and look throughout the year how much on average you've spent, average that out by month, add it in here. The thread has to be paid for somehow. So when you add in your raw materials plus your overhead of $3.42, after you've obtained your overhead amount, $3.42, add that, gives you $26.68. Okay, so now we're at $26.68. Well, now we need to add in our labor. For the sake of this example, we're saying we're gonna get paid $15 an hour, and it takes us an hour and a half to make this complete outfit, the shirt and the tutu and everything. Therefore, we're making $22.50. That's what we need to make off of this. So add your $22.50 to your $26.68. Now you're at $49.18. So yeah, now you've accounted for all your raw material, your overhead, and your labor. Now you just need your markup. So like I mentioned, markup is going to be between 55 and 62%. For the sake of this example, we're using 58%. We're going to land a little bit in the middle. Well, 58% of our cost is going to be $28.52. Okay, so add that $28.52 to your raw material, your overhead, and your labor, and that gives you $7. Okay, so by the time you add in your markup to your raw material, your overhead, and your labor, you're now at $77.70. But you're not done. You need your add in your Etsy fees. Etsy charges 4 different types of fees. You have your listing fee of 20 cents, which we already accounted for in our raw material section, because no matter what, as soon as you list it, you're being slapped with that. Now you're gonna get ready to sell it, so you need to account for the 5% transaction fee and the 3% plus 25 cents that Etsy charges you for payment processing. So you add in all these fees to your raw material, overhead, labor, and markup. So now your total cost, your total price should be $83.92. You should be selling this pretend tutu set for $83.92, which is complete with a shirt, a skirt, and a hair bow. and the skirt has 2 layers of ribbon. So that is how you would get your pricing. Now is the time when you go to Etsy and you go to different platforms and you look at what your competitors are selling it for. Do never price based on what your competitors are pricing. You don't know what they're paying for all of these. You don't even know if they're even taking into consideration any of their overhead. They're probably spinning their wheels making sales and actually not making any profit at the end of the day. So do not base your pricing on your competitors, right? So if you go to your competitors though, and they're selling it for a like outfit for like $75, and you're like, well, no, I'm at $83.92. I need to make sure everything's covered and I'm actually making money. Don't just lower it to match their price. Look at your markup. So we know the industry average for fashion is 55 to 62%. Depending on what you chose here, you can lower it all the way down to 55%. If I was you, I would not go any lower. Get what you're worth, and do not gyp yourself. Like, you know what you're worth, but you can play with this number a little bit. Labor, what are you making? Are you okay with making less than this? Now, if that number you originally put at $30 an hour, maybe you can make less. You can play with whatever your expectations are as far as your labor. Overhead. So can you get anything in here down lower? Can you spend less, buy smarter and spend less on tape, on paper, on, can you save on your insurance? Can you lower your phone bill? Whatever's in your overhead, take a look at all those items and see where you can save money. Then go over to your raw material. A lot of savings can be in here. Buy smart. Buy in bulk. Buy smart. If you're buying all your tulle at Joann's or Hobby Lobby, you're not going to make any money. You need to find a good vendor that can get you down to like 23 cents per yard, 23 to 35 cents per yard to really make a good profit. Ribbon. Where can you buy ribbon smart? Be careful with this. I get my glitter ribbon for free. So this will like be close to nothing if it's just one layer of glitter ribbon. The rest, if you're buying glitter ribbon at Walmart or Hobby Lobby or somewhere like that, you're paying a lot. This is going to be different for you. It's going to be different for everybody. Your shirts, how much are you paying for your shirts? I paid as much as $8.50 a shirt. If you buy them in bulk and you get a discount and you get free shipping, you can get this down pretty low. That you can save money here. Fabric. I bought tons of fabric. Let me see, scroll up there. All those bolts I got on clearance and I paid like $1.75 a bolt. Okay, so depending on how much you're paying for fabric, your fabric is going to be super low. Versus if you're buying all your fabric on Spoonflower, paying $20-something a yard, and I'm paying $1.75 a yard, there's no way we can both make the same item with different fabric and have around the same cost. So look into that. Your thank you cards. If you're buying your thank you cards from a company and they come to you already printed and everything, that should be over here in your overhead because you're buying them every so often and you know you're going to keep buying them. But can you save money on that? You know you can get that cost down. Same thing with your stickers, your tags. There's always room to get your tag costs lower. Your mailers, you can always play around and buy those from different companies. Your shipping costs, there's only so much we can do about that. But there's a lot of areas where you can manipulate to save and to get that price down without losing money. At the end of the day, you want to make sure you're getting what you're worth. You want to make sure you're not just going on Etsy and looking up someone else that's selling it too and just saying, oh, they're selling this for $83, so I'm going to go in and sell it for $70 and I'm going to get all the sales. You will get the sales for sure. People like cheap and fast. You'll get the sales, doesn't mean you'll make any profit. Just because you see somebody with 10 sales today and you made one, you may profit more off that one sale and they do off those 10. So I hope you guys got what you needed from this video. I hope it helped you. If you have any questions, please reach out and I'll be happy to help you. The best thing to do is create a spreadsheet where all this goes in there. And you can just plug in your information with all the formulas and it'll tell you, if those of you who know how to use Excel, it'll help and it'll tell you what to charge for whatever size that you're gonna list, and it'll really help you. And if you go in once a month and review your costs once a month, you'll know how much it fluctuates. What you're selling a tutu for today should not be the same amount you're selling it for this time next year. Things have changed. If it is, you haven't done your homework and you haven't kept up with your finances. Please remember, you can play with these numbers in many different ways. There's no set percentage or set rates. There's fluctuations on the industry normal. This is just a way to make sure everything is being captured and you're actually making money. Don't spin your wheels, make the profit. Until the next video, see you guys later. Bye.